before gods ruled, before laws were written, before order was enforced, there were women, not as companions, not as helpers, but as beginnings. In the oldest mythologies, creation does not begin with a father figure. It begins with a body, with matter, with chaos capable of giving birth. These women were not gentle. They were not obedient. They were not designed to be understood. They created, and creation alone made them dangerous. In ancient Mesopotamia, creation had a name, Tiamat. She was not human, not shaped, not symbolic. She was salt water and darkness, the raw substance of existence itself. From her body the first gods emerged. She did not rule them. She did not command them. She simply existed, and that was enough. But creation was not enough. As the younger gods grew louder, more ambitious, more demanding, they did not fear chaos. They feared a woman who did not need permission. Tiamat was declared a monster, not because she destroyed, but because she preceded, not because she ruled, but because she could not be ruled. Her body was split apart. Her blood became rivers. Her bones became the sky. Her remains were reorganized into a universe that could be controlled. Creation survived. The creator did not. This pattern repeats. In Greek mythology, the earth itself was female. Gaia was not born, she was. She existed before sky, before gods, before authority. From her came mountains, seas, and gods alike. She created without violence, without permission, without hierarchy. And yet even Gaia had to be contained. Her children overthrew one another. The sky imprisoned her. The gods built a world on her body, then ruled it from above. The earth remained female. Power became male. In Egypt, Isis represented a different threat. She was not raw chaos. She was intelligence. Isis gathered the scattered body of Osiris. She resurrected him. She conceived life from death itself. She knew names. And in mythology, to know a name is to control power. Isis did not overthrow gods. She outwitted them. And for that, she was worshipped, but never allowed to rule alone. In China, Nuwa created humanity from clay. She repaired the sky when it broke. She restored order after catastrophe. But later myths reduced her, from supreme creator to symbolic mother to supportive figure. Creation remained feminine. Authority did not. In Japan, Amaterasu, the sun goddess, brought light to the world. When she withdrew, the universe froze into darkness. When she returned, life resumed. Even the sun depended on her presence, yet her power had to be balanced, restricted, surrounded by male gods who interpreted her light. Across cultures, the message is consistent. The first creators were women. The first threats were women. And the first figures to be reshaped, diminished, or destroyed were women. Creation without control was unacceptable. So the myths adapted. The female creator became a monster, or a mother, or a symbol, or a cautionary tale, but never a ruler, because a woman who creates without permission challenges the very idea of order. War is rarely associated with women, not because women did not fight, but because fighting women disrupt order. In mythology, a woman with a weapon is not just a soldier. She is a question. Who gave her the right to decide life and death? The Amazons answered this question with silence. They lived beyond borders, beyond husbands, beyond permission. They did not invade. They defended their existence. Greek myths called them unnatural, not because they were violent, but because they were complete without men. Athena fought differently. She was strategy, not rage, armor without bloodlust, a mind sharpened into a blade. Yet even Athena had to deny her own femininity. Born from a male god's head, loyal to patriarchal order, accepted because she upheld the rules. In Egypt, Sekhmet was unleashed. She was not trained for war. She was war, a goddess of destruction sent to punish humanity. When her violence became uncontrollable, the gods feared her power, not because it failed, but because it worked too well, she had to be stopped. Durga entered battle fully formed, not created to assist men, but to defeat what men could not. She carried many weapons, each given by a god who failed before her. Victory was allowed, as long as it was temporary. In Ireland, the Morrigan did not fight on the battlefield. She decided who would survive it. She appeared as a crow, watching, waiting, choosing. The warrior woman is never just about war. She represents control over violence, and control is what mythology fears most. When it belongs to women, monsters are rarely born, they are made. In mythology, darkness is not the absence of light. It is the presence of something that refuses to be controlled. And when that presence is female, it must be named, reshaped, and feared. Medusa was not a monster at first. She was a woman whose body was punished for someone else's violence. Her transformation was not justice, it was containment. Her gaze did not kill because it was evil. It killed because it reversed power. Those who looked at her lost control. So she had to die. Lilith refused to lie beneath. She refused obedience, hierarchy, and silence. She left. That choice alone made her unforgivable. She became a demon, a seducer, a killer of children, not because she destroyed life, but because she chose herself. Lamia loved and lost. Her grief was not contained, so it was weaponized against her. She was transformed into something that devours, a warning wrapped in teeth and sorrow. Kaylee stands in darkness, not to destroy the world, but to end illusions. She is time. She is death. She is the truth that everything ends, and that truth terrifies. Hecate stands at the crossroads. She does not chase. She waits. She governs thresholds, birth, death, magic, night. She does not interfere. She observes, and observation without permission is power. These women were not feared because they were cruel. They were feared because they were complete. Darkness in mythology is not evil. It is autonomy. And autonomy has always been the most dangerous thing a woman can possess. Love is rarely innocent in mythology. It is never just emotion. It is influence. Desire moves gods, collapses kingdoms, and justifies violence. And when desire belongs to women, it must be regulated. Aphrodite did not rule through armies. She ruled through attraction, through longing that could not be reasoned with. Gods lost wars because of her. Men abandoned logic because of her. Order bent. So her power was framed as dangerous, irrational, excessive, never strategic, never intentional. Inanna was desire with purpose. She descended into the underworld not for love, but for sovereignty. She removed her symbols one by one, not stripped, choosing to continue. She returned changed. Desire survived death, and that was unforgivable. Freya wept for love, but she also commanded war. Her tears turned into gold, her longing into currency. She moved between tenderness and violence freely, too freely. So later myths softened her, reduced her to romance, contained her contradictions. Ocean's power was pleasure, joy, fertility. When she withdrew, the world withered. When she returned, life resumed. Even creation depended on her delight. Yet pleasure was never allowed to stand alone. It had to serve balance, or be punished. These women were not feared because they loved. They were feared because love obeyed them. Desire, when controlled by women, becomes agency, and agency is always unsettled myth. Knowledge has always been more dangerous than violence. Weapons destroy bodies. Knowledge reshapes systems. When women possess knowledge in mythology, they are rarely praised. They are isolated, exiled, or redefined as threats. Athena was allowed wisdom, but only when it served order. She was strategy, not intuition, logic, not mystery. Her knowledge was acceptable because it supported power, not questioned it. Circe knew transformation. She did not steal power. She understood it. Men who arrived on her island were not punished for innocence. They were changed because they failed to see her as authority. Transformation was her language. Medea knew everything she was not supposed to. Her knowledge crossed borders, cultural, magical, moral. She helped a hero succeed. And once her usefulness ended, her knowledge became unforgivable. Bridget carried knowledge that could not be separated. Poetry, healing, craft, creation, and intellect in the same body. Saraswati embodied learning itself, not as possession, but as flow, speech, music, memory. She was not feared, she was ritualized, because knowledge that cannot be weaponized must be sanctified. Across mythologies, the pattern remains. A woman who knows must either serve, be isolated, or be transformed into something symbolic, because a woman who understands systems can change them, and that is never neutral. In mythology, death is rarely masculine, not because men do not die, but because death is not conquest. Death is inevitability, and inevitability has often been imagined as female. The mothers of mythology do not only give life, they decide when it ends. The Moirai did not kill, they measured. They spun, stretched, and cut the thread of existence without emotion. They did not judge virtue, they did not respond to prayer. Even the gods obeyed them, because fate does not negotiate. Hell ruled a realm without fire or punishment. Her power was not cruelty, it was finality. Those who entered her domain did not suffer, they remained, and remaining forever unchanged was the fear. Persephone did not choose death, but she learned its language. She moved between worlds, not as a victim, but as a bridge. Spring followed her return, winter followed her absence. Life itself adjusted to her movement. Izanami gave birth to the gods of Japan, and then she died giving life. When she returned transformed, she was rejected. Creation could be worshipped, decay could not. Across cultures, the pattern is clear. Women were allowed to create life. They were not allowed to define death, so death became distant, maternal but feared, inevitable but unnamed, because a woman who governs the end holds the final authority, and final authority has always unsettled myth. Some women in mythology were not defeated. They were rewritten. Erasure is quieter than violence. It leaves no ruins, only absence. Pandora was not created to destroy. She was designed to explain destruction. Blame needed a body, and she was convenient. Curiosity became guilt. Disobedience became catastrophe. The story did not ask who placed the box in her hands. It asked why she opened it. Eve was not a mythological villain. She was a narrative solution. Responsibility shifted. Knowledge became sin. Choice became failure. Medusa appears again not as a monster, but as a warning. Her story was simplified until her pain disappeared. What remained was fear without context. Lilith returned as a demon. Her refusal reframed as malice. Her autonomy transformed into threat. These women did not fall. They were pushed, then blamed for the fall. Mythology does not only tell stories, it disciplines memory. What is erased cannot argue back. What is demonized does not need to be understood. And so the pattern survives. Silence becomes proof. Absence becomes guilt. And the story continues. Mythology does not belong to the past. It belongs to structure. These stories survived because they were useful. They explained fear. They justified control. They taught memory who to remember and who to erase. The women of mythology were never consistent. They were creators and destroyers, mothers and monsters, teachers and warnings. What they shared was not personality, it was position. They stood at the edges of systems, at beginnings, at endings, at moments where control weakens, and that is why they were rewritten. When women created, myths turned them into chaos. When they ruled, myths called them unnatural. When they knew too much, myths isolated them. When they refused, myths demonized them, not because they were dangerous, but because they were autonomous. Over time, the stories simplified. Complex women became symbols, symbols became lessons, lessons became rules. But myths never fully succeed in erasure. Medusa still looks back, Lilith still walks away, Hecate still waits at the crossroads, Persephone still moves between worlds. They remain not as characters, but as structures. They reappear in films, in games, in politics, in the expectations placed on women today. Because mythology does not end, it adapts. And every time a woman is told she is too much, too dangerous, too curious, too independent, the myth is speaking again. These women were never warnings. They were mirrors, and mirrors are always uncomfortable